Hi, everyone. All right, so we've talked about electromagnetic energy and its different properties. We've talked about the electromagnetic spectrum, which is the full range of all electromagnetic energy. Now let's talk about how we actually use this and obtain the information. So what we use is something called spectroscopy. And this is the study of matter and how it interacts with any portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're going to be looking mostly at the visible light part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So we can use this to determine the composition, meaning what is it made of, the density, temperature, which we'll talk about in our next unit, and also the motion of an object. As I said before, is it moving towards us, away, fast, slow? All of that can be determined by looking at how it interacts with the electromagnetic spectrum. So what we have is some kind of light source, either a star or a lamp, because we can observe this in a classroom or a laboratory setting. And what it does is it goes through a tiny slit within this setup, and then it hits what's called a prism. And this whole device is called a spectroscope. And that prism that it hits splits the light as it enters into different wavelengths. We know that all the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, have different wavelengths, different energies. When they hit that prism, that glass, they separate, they bend. It's what we call refraction. So they bend at different angles because their energies is different. If you want to talk more about reflection and refraction, I'd be happy to when we get back. Otherwise, we're going to leave it at that because they have different energies, they bend at different angles, and it allows them to actually split apart so we can see the rainbow. So let's talk about the different types of spectrum. There's three. So the first one is a continuous spectrum, where we have no breaks in the color of the spectrum. And this is what we can use a rainbow. It could be described as a continuous spectrum, our Roy G. Biv. There are no breaks in the colors. The next type of spectrum is called the absorption spectrum. And so what happens is when light passes through a cool gas, so we have a cool gas, the light is going through it, dark lines appear in the spectrum where specific wavelengths of light have been absorbed or taken in by the gas. So the different wavelengths where the gas has absorbed it will show up as dark lines across a spectrum. So we call this an absorption spectra because it absorbs, takes in the different wavelengths of light. It produces those black bands. Now, if we take that light and pass it through something different, we will make what's called an emission spectra. So an emission spectra consists of a series of colored lines that correspond to the different wavelengths that are emitted or given off by a glowing gas. So if we take that gas, we heat it up by adding some kind of energy to it. It will be emitted onto a black background, and the places where it's being kind of given off, those wavelengths, will appear as different colored lines. I am not going to be coloring every single, you're going to notice in your packet that not a lot of color is in this packet. So we're just going to be looking more at absorption and emission spectra in terms of the lines, the wavelengths that are either absorbed or emitted. You can notice that the wavelengths of the emission lines are the same as the absorption lines. So emission spectra, absorption spectra tell you the same information, they just look a little different. So I'll typically call them different emission spectra, but absorption spectra will tell us the same thing. So how do we actually use it? Well, the spectroscopy, as I said, so we have for the continuous, it's just that rainbow. Then when you have the light going through cold gas, it splits and we can see the dark colors where it has been absorbed. The hot gas goes through the diffraction gradient. That's just the prism, and it splits, and it has where it is emitted. That light is emitting those different wavelengths. The light that we see is just a mixture of all those different wavelengths that are being emitted by a gas or some other object that has been heated up, but typically gas. All right. Stars. Okay, where do we get it? Well, we know that stars are made up of different elements depending upon their age. We were just talking about hydrogen fusion reactions, the hydrogen that makes helium. However, we can have other kinds of reactions because those other elements have to be made some way, somehow. And because they're different ages and they have different elements that are made, it's because the fusion reactions are different. So we can have that carbon atom that's forming. We can have that phosphorus atom that's forming, all because of different types of nuclear fusion reactions. The thing to keep in mind is we talk about those different reactions, so the nuclei is changing, but their electrons are also important because it's those moving electrons that produce the light. And every element has electrons that are different distances from the nucleus. So if we notice in hydrogen, the first energy level is really far from the nucleus, and compare it to helium, where the first level is closer. So each energy level has a different amount of energy in it. And the closer you are, the less energy you have compared to when you're farther away. So because these distances are different, each level has a unique amount of energy. So what we do is the different amounts of energy that are released after electrons fall cause different colors of light to be emitted. So every level has a different amount of energy in every single element. They're different distances, and that's going to cause a different color because all colors have different amounts of energy associated with them. Our Roy G. Biv. Red is lazy, where our violet end is hyper, has a lot more energy along the way. So what do we do? Well, all elements have different distances, and that's going to cause a unique amount of energy, and therefore unique spectra. And these are known these are known absorption spectra that we have right now, emission spectra. Sorry. These are known emission spectra of elements. It is what it is. We've been able to determine these in a laboratory setting. So using these, we can identify what elements different stars are made of. And since we know the different elements that they're made of, we can also help determine their age and how far along they are in the fusion process. So how does it work? Well, it's kind of like our fingerprints. Everybody has unique fingerprints. They were made when you were in the womb because you were touching the inside of the womb that you were hanging out in as you were growing for those 9 months. And because everybody's tissues are different, that's what caused your fingerprints to be different than everyone else's. Same with elements. Every element has a unique fingerprint, a unique emission spectra. It's only theirs. So carbon and oxygen, we can see they are very different. Iron has some similar parts of oxygen. They have some similar colors, but they don't have all the same. Everything is unique. All right, so how do we do this? Well, if we look at a mixture, we can compare the elements that we know. If all the spectral lines within an element match up within the mixture, then we know that that element is present. So for example, down here at the bottom, I have elements A and B. I have the mixture. We can see that the first line in element A is found in the mixture. The second line of element A is found in the mixture. And the third line of element A is found in the mixture. The mixture has extra lines. That's okay. That's fine. The element cannot have extra lines. So element B, the first line is in the mixture, the second line, third line, fourth line. Again, the mixture, the bottom in this case, can have extra lines. The element cannot have extra lines. Let's practice this a little bit. This is not in your packet. It's just for us getting some practice using these emission lines, absorption lines, and exactly how we use them. So here I have an unknown star, and our job is to figure out what elements make up the star. So here I have my unknown, and below I have my helium. This is a known spectra. So let's look. Is helium part of the mixture? Recall the mixture is the top one. Is helium part of it? Well, the first line in helium matches up. The second line in helium matches up. So yes, all of helium's lines are in the mixture. The mixture has extra lines. That's okay. Helium's lines are both there. We're good to go. Let's look at hydrogen. Is hydrogen part of the mixture? Remember, the mixture's on the top. Is hydrogen part of it? The first, second, 3, and 4? Yep, all of them are there. So hydrogen must be part of the unknown star. What about iron? Let's go by it. Yes, they are. We have all of the lines in iron matching up within the mixture. Yes, the mixture has extra lines. That's okay. Iron cannot have any extra lines. What about sulfur? Is sulfur part of the mixture? No. We can see that the second line in sulfur is not up here in the mixture. So as soon as you find one line that's not part of the mixture, you're done. You don't have to look at anything else. It's also very clear that this line is not in the mixture, so it cannot be part of the star. What about oxygen? Remember, the mixture, the star is up here. We want to know if oxygen is part of this mixture. Nope. There are a lot of lines in oxygen that are not present in the star, so it cannot be found there. All right, let's look at this in our packet. I do say that a ruler can be helpful. I have rulers over on the side counter near our sign-out sheet. You are welcome to borrow any of those rulers at any time. And we're just going to go element by element. So this is the opposite of what we looked at before. Now I have my mixture at the bottom. So this is my unknown, and these are my known elements. I need to figure out which elements are in this mixture, this unknown at the bottom. Let's go piece by piece. Element A. So let's analyze element A. If you want to take a ruler to match it up on your paper, it may be helpful. You could pause to go get a ruler or just follow along. So line 1 in element A. Let's see. Line 1. Does it match up within the mixture? Nope. Nope. The first line is not in the mixture, so it can't be present. We don't have to look at anything else. I've found one line that's not there. Done. Move on. Can't be part of it. Let's look at element D. Again, if you want to use your ruler, so we have the first line in element D. It matches up. The second line, it matches up. Okay. The third line matches up with the bottom. And the fourth line also matches up with the bottom. It's part of the star. It's part of the unknown because all of the spectral lines in element D match up in the bottom. But wait, Mrs. Fox, there's extra lines in the mixture. What about that? That's okay. You can have extra lines in the mixture. You can't have extra lines in the element. Let's look at element Z. All right. Get your ruler if you have to. The first line matches up. The second line matches up. Yes, it's part of the mixture because all the lines are present in the mixture. So the answer for our checkpoint, element A, is not part of it. We found one line. That's it. Move on. Element D, all of those lines are present. And element Z, all of those lines are present. All right. Go back and fill in anything that you may have missed. Otherwise, your check-in will be posted shortly. See you later.